Tottenham Depot. I am your host, Andrew. You can follow me at Astetka. You can follow us at Tottenham Depot. This is episode 192 and a bit of a false start to the season for Spurs as they go up to the King Power Stadium and only come away with a point with a 1-1 draw against Leicester City. We've got Caroline alongside to chat about it. She is at CG Stefko. Caroline, what's going on with you on this Monday evening?
Well, it's been an emotional roller coaster of a day, starting off with the Skippy signing to Leicester and then playing Leicester. So, yeah, not my favorite club at the moment.
Yeah, a lot going on. We do have a lot more other than the Leicester match to talk about, obviously, as you allude to. Transfer dealing since our last pod that we didn't really expect to happen, but have kind of just popped up out of the woodwork. We will get to some of that as well. Todd is also along with us for the ride. He is at TC_Show. TC, how disappointing was that one, man?
Hey, do any day that you get to start your season off with a point on the road is a good day. I don't care who you are. They all tally up at the end of the day. And disappointing or not, it realistically looks like the first game our starting 11 played together because it was the first game our starting 11 played together. So we are where we are.
That is a very fair point. A little bit of optimism from the both of you, which I appreciate because I'm probably going to need it. You guys are probably going to have to drag me along to some optimistic feelings throughout this podcast. But before we talk any further, I do want to hear from the manager. Ange Postecoglou met with the media after the match, and here's a little bit of what he had to say.
Yeah, look, disappointing outcome. Very dominant for first half, but really wasteful in front of goal. Started the second half similarly. First 15, 20 minutes, very dominant, wasteful, and then, at 1-0, there's always an opportunity for the opposition to come back in the game, and that's what happened. And, we lost our way for 15, 20 minutes, lost our composure. Their crowd sort of got behind them. But again, finished strong, but just really disappointed that, we just lacked a real sort of cutting edge in that front third, made some poor decisions, lacked some composure, and, unfortunately didn't get the reward our football deserved.
And that's Ange Postecoglou. I guess where we should start here is probably with that starting 11 and just talking about the way that Ange set this team up. I don't think there was anything super duper surprising within the starting 11. Obviously, the back five, including Vicario, picks itself. Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van de Vanadogi. The midfield, Bentancur, Sarr, Madison. And then the front three, Son, Solanke, and Brennan Johnson. Caroline, were there any surprises for you with this 11? I know some might have expected to see Dejan Kulusevski, especially after the strong preseason, but instead it's Brennan Johnson who gets to start out on the right wing.
Yeah, I was hoping that Ange would find a way to work him in, honestly, because he has been in such great form, and I thought he looked good when he came on later as a sub as well. But I think Johnson's been coming in for some harsh criticism that I don't think is fully deserved. Like, I think he had a decent game. As Ange said, we created a lot of chances, didn't finish them, but it's still a lot better than the dark days of Conte when we could not generate a single chance in some games. So I'm not going to complain about, the attacking effort today. I think it wasn't too bad. And then the only other real, kind of toss up for the lineup was the decision to start Bentancur instead of Archie Gray, I guess, was really the only other option. And personally, I kind of wanted to see him get the start, but I can understand, Ange's reasoning is probably to not throw him into the deep end right away, even though he's done that with other players in the past on their debuts. So, yeah, I didn't have any issue with the lineup when I saw it. And the real refreshing thing was seeing, the depth on the bench. That's really the biggest change from last season.
Do you see anything stand out to you?
No, it was pretty. It's pretty pragmatically Ange. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at an Ange lineup, it kind of, a lot of the time, it kind of picks itself. Not a ton of surprises. It's pretty straight down the middle. And then when you look at the changes that were made, you speak to the depth, Caroline. The only thing that was weird about the changes sorry if I'm getting ahead on the lineup here, was seeing Werner on the right. That broke my brain. I didn't like it, and I want him to go back to the left side and not touch the ball so much.
I think it broke his brain too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason for that in the moment, and we'll come on to the changes. I want to talk about the first half first because we'll start with the good. But to your point, I think the only reason for that in the moment was that Son was out on the left, and I think you'd rather Son on the left. But at the same time, it did the entire. We'll get into that because the entire formation when they made the quadruple change, they switched to this 4-1-4-1 type of setup, and I felt like it threw off a lot of the angles that they were trying to create and were successfully creating throughout the match.
To be fair, it was a triple change that was planning to come on. And then Bentancur got knocked fucking cold in the middle of the pitch and had to bring the fourth person on. If you don't bring the fourth person on for Bentancur and it's just the triple change, which I'm not sure whether that would remove the attacker or whether Archie would sit down. I'm not sure what it would be. But if you don't do that, it doesn't look so disjointed. My issue was when you bring Bergvall, Kulusevski, and Archie Gray on the pitch, you end up playing fucking bunch ball, which is what we watched for a lot of the second half.
Yeah, let's dig in on the first half because there was a lot of positive to take, especially out of that first half. I mean, Spurs in the first, I wrote it down, in the first 11 minutes had 5 corners. And for a team like Leicester who have similar problems to Spurs, honestly, in terms of defending set pieces, this was welcome news. And quite honestly, I thought Spurs everything was going well in the first half. Like, I didn't really have anything poor to say other than perhaps a chance here or there that just didn't fall.
We were fucking wasteful.
We were a little bit, yeah, we were wasteful, and that's fair. But I did feel like the pressure was all there. Leicester did not have enough of the ball to even get a sniff, to be perfectly honest. I mean, Leicester ended up with, I think it was only, I've got it written down here. 29% of the ball for the game.
No one gives a fuck. I got to push back. Nobody cares. We led the league in touches inside the box last year, and we're like 8th for when it came to chances converted. We were like 3rd or 4th chances created, 8th for chances converted. No one gives a fuck unless you finish your chances. We're not finishing our chances. The same old issues. I literally almost put in the group chat, but I didn't want the bad juju. Oh, Brennan Johnson flashing goals wide across the face. We truly are back. And that's where the "we're back, baby" comes from. This is standard fucking Spurs. If I have to recount the amount of opening day late draws, the amount of Chris Wood headers that I have to recount in my brain as a Spurs fan, I can't even tell you. Like, this is par for the course. At least he did it in the 63rd minute as opposed to the 93rd minute, so I could at least enjoy the majority of the rest of my day going, yep, this is pretty standard Spurs. So, do you want to the quintessential Spursiness of it all? And I hate that term, but I'm going to use it here because it hits. Is the Richarlison header at the end of the fucking match where the play is perfect. Bergvall's cross was on a platter for Brazil's number 1 striker, Brazil's number 9, and he put it into the fucking first row. And Ange's sideline was absolutely all of us. That's the one.
Is that the one we mean? Yeah,
That's
that
the
right
one.
there for
Absolutely all of
for
us.
our viewers on YouTube. Everyone is feeling that after that match. Just Ange hunched over, hands on his knees. Just that's all you can say. That photo is going to be memed to death this season. So I would like to thank Ange for at least providing us with that bit of content. No,
early.
Todd,
you're
you're right. It was wasteful in the first half, but let's be honest, we didn't feel bad going into the break up 1-0. We felt like, okay, continue this pressure. You did. You felt like this. I thought we were going to get optimism from you.
Here's my issue. We'll get optimism on the end of it, but to get there, the thing is that It's standard fucking Spurs. You're the better team on the pitch for 45 minutes, yet it's only 1-0 going into the break because you didn't step on their fucking necks. If you convert one of those chances, 39-year-old Jamie Vardy can go fuck himself with his token goal against Tottenham. And we still get the 3 points. But no, you didn't step on somebody's neck. And the next thing you know, they come back and you got to end up being a fucking meme. And it's all over the goddamn internet because Jamie Vardy scored a fucking trash can of a goal in the first day of the season. And he may score 6 total goals this year. It doesn't matter. That one goal is what anybody's going to talk about from Jamie Vardy's year. Fucking glorious. I hate that man.
And he was certainly talking about it quite a bit as well, trash talking with Romero and the bench and pointing to the Premier League badge and signaling that we've won one, you haven't. It was
They decided they hated us after they came up. Like when we were in that title race, they decided, you know what, we're going to get on the fuck Spurs bandwagon. And to be fair, we've kind of got the better of that exchange since they've been here, saved their title run, which is fair enough. Yeah. But that guy has a Premier League winners medal, an FA Cup winners medal, and a Community Shield winners medal, which, to be fair, whatever, you put that up in my Audi Cup winner medals, it's fine. But to be still, man's won a league and an FA Cup, I can't say shit to the guy. And a golden boot. Fuck.
Yeah. Caroline, let me try and mine some optimism from you out of that first half, because I did really just love the way that we pressed. And granted, I'm going to caveat everything that we say during this pod with, this was Leicester. I don't think Leicester are very good. And it was obvious that they weren't very good in that first half. The way that we pressed them, the way that our midfield kind of just sucked up anything that they tried to hoof out. I thought Mickey Van de Ven in the first half was everywhere. He was hoovering up every long ball and just filtering it right back to a midfielder. And I thought the cool thing about what we saw in the first half too was that they weren't really dilly-dallying. They were moving quickly. Like Van de Ven was getting a long kick out and immediately getting it to a midfielder. And there were wasted chances in front of goal, but the chance creation was there. Like they were definitely creating a ton of them.
Yeah, I mean, and it was pouring down rain for most of the first half, I noticed. So I was pretty impressed with how well we did manage to press despite that and to keep some of those passing patterns flowing. Like I thought Son and Madison, their partnership was working really well again. And, you know, if we want to bring Brennan into it, I think partnerships are really important in like the Ange system. And I actually think his best partnership in the team is with Timo Werner out on the left. Because honestly, I think that if Timo was running onto that cross and not Sonny, it was a goal. But obviously he was not. So here we are. But going into the second half, I still felt confident that we were going to win because Leicester had not troubled us at all in that first half. Like I think we got maybe like 30 minutes into the game before Vicario had a significant touch. So I wasn't feeling concerned about them. But then obviously second half, we come out, we're looking just kind of all over the place. And the thing that bothers me about Jamie Vardy's goal is that it's another one of those cases of we did not make it difficult for him to score. And that's what really kills me. And he's kind of the banter king. So like, you know, he'll get his jokes off, whatever. But I still felt like he equalized early enough that we should have been able to get back into the game. But then we had kind of this weird situation with the Bentancur injury, which was scary in the moment.
Scary.
And, you know, obviously it's a good thing that he seems like he's going to be okay. But I think it was a combination of having that quadruple sub and obviously having that incident kind of weighing on their minds that the players did not look in sync and focus. I don't know what you want to call it, but passes just were not going where they were expected to. And kind of like y'all alluded to, the sort of clustering in the midfield, you know, I think Gray and Bergvall, they both had really bright moments, but they were kind of getting in each other's way a lot. And, you know, the communication was not there too, I think was also kind of an issue that we saw even in the defense. I think even the commentators said Vicario needed to be a little more vocal, which is a fair shout. And yeah, it just, I do still feel more optimistic than not, because I think we saw enough good things in the first half, and like the finishing is going to get better as the season goes on. I do believe that. And we've got players who are just coming into the team, specifically in the second half. This is their Premier League debut. Like, you can't be too upset with the effort that they put in, I think. And
Agreed.
Charles,
It was a bit cluster. It was a bit cluster there.
Yeah.
One might call it a cluster fuck.
Preseason. Udagi barely had a preseason. I feel like you were seeing some rest. So these are little things that I don't think are going to be long-term issues. So that's why I'm trying not to feel down about the result, even though you don't want to be dropping points to this Leicester team. Like, outside of Vardy, there's not a ton of quality in that side, and yeah, disappointing.
There's really not. Where are who were the players that, I mean, you brought up, Caroline, a few different, not that you're digging them out, but Todd, who are the players that you want to dig out for their performances? Because I don't think there's one you can pick on for this match. Or maybe there is. Maybe I'm wrong. I would say I don't think there's one. I think there's two or three that I thought were a little bit below the standard, but overall, I thought this is a, I almost said team loss. It wasn't a loss, but it's one that obviously feels like a loss when you don't get 3 points where you think you should.
No, dude, I think that's a really great point, to be fair. I don't know that I would call out anyone for being especially shit other than Jamie Vardy, because fuck that guy. He's a terrible human being.
And he wasn't supposed to start by all indications.
I saw the same thing. Again, some more fucking Leicester fuckery, because who would Tottenham? Anyway, it's fucking Jamie Vardy. Anyhow, it's kind of like when you go to see a band play and like they've brought in a couple of guys that haven't played with the band in a long time, or it's their first time sitting in or whatever, and like it just, truthfully, you find yourself looking at them trying to find their rhythm with one another, and like it felt very much like that. More like, okay, we all know what we're supposed to do, but like the ad-libbing part of it, like knowing where the other person's going to move or how they're going to move, like we didn't quite see the fluidity is what we're going to go with today.
That's why I'm so confused, though, because I want to lightly push back on that, because for 78 minutes in this match, we saw a team that only had one player in the starting 11 that was a new player, and that was Dominic Solanke. And I thought that Solanke was good, other than the one really, really obvious chance he had that he kicked right into the keeper. But
yeah, no, I'm not gonna push back on Solanke, but what I'm gonna say is the amount of minutes that were played in the preseason.
Okay.
Right. With this group of 11 players that went on the pitch together is not very many. I would say that it's of that whole core group together, say it's under 10 minutes.
But it's not like these players haven't played together before. Like, these are all players. That's not the question
that we're talking about. It's not like the band members haven't played together before. They know the songs, Andrew. It's just been a while since they played together. But so they're, like how the guy's going to come in on the solo, or, what the extra, the extra hit on the ride is going to be before he moves into the toms. Like you forget those things, that fluidity, that familiarity. You forget those things when you're playing with your national team, or when you're sitting on the beach in the Maldives, or whatever, right? Like getting back to it, and especially when it's pissing down rain in the middle of Leicester and these fans hate your guts for some weird reason. You're like, you guys are in the Midlands. This isn't even close to London. What the fuck is going on? Anyhow, look at that. Like I said, start the season with a point. Is it disappointing? Sure. Is it disappointing because we barely made it out of the King Power with a draw? No. It's disappointing because we were wasteful in front of goal, and our new players, took a minute or two to bet in. And, when you brought on the kids, they got overly excited and looked like a bunch of puppies running around the new dog toy. And so, like, it's just kind of what you expect it was going to be.
Yeah.
And just going to take this and learn and go, okay, this is what happened, and you keep it moving.
I do think it's interesting, though, that we got this far into the pod without even mentioning Solanke. And I think that's because he wasn't an issue. Like,
no, he wasn't.
He wasn't.
He fit in seamlessly, and that's a good sign, going forward.
And they're going to continue to spam crosses into that guy, Kaz, and he's going to convert his chances. Statistically, that has to happen.
I really appreciated how he looked as if he knew the type of striker that Ange needs in this system. He was dropping deep at certain times when it was needed, and just kind of almost being not a false nine, but dropping into deeper into the pitch and filtering a ball out wide when need be. He almost looked as if he wasn't trying to score sometimes. He was just trying to keep the ball flowing. And it was something that I think early on and this is not a shot at Richarlison. So please, I'm going to preface, do not take it this way. But he almost looked way more comfortable in an Ange system than Richarlison did in the early Richarlison days last year. It looked a little different to me. Now, that's not to say that, like, I think Richarlison can be a really good piece, blatant missed header aside in this one coming off the bench, but like Solanke just looked more comfortable in the system. And I think that also speaks to Ange knowing this is a guy that he wanted, and this is a guy that he could get to come in with only a few, training sessions under his belt and do a job. And I thought, despite when you look at this match, the way that it played out in terms of the timeline, it was the Solanke miss and the Bentancur miss back to back that were like really obvious, beautiful chances. And look, you need to create those chances, and the team did a really good job of creating them. They just weren't converted. And then shortly thereafter is when Vardy equalized. So it felt like one of those consecutive, really high XG chances that were not converted. And then all of a sudden the game's equalized and everything kind of gets turned on its head with the Bentancur injury, no pun intended. And obviously, like everything, all the changes that had to be made after that were, being ready already, like those guys were ready to come on, and then Bentancur gets hurt and things have to change. And then late in the match too, with Pedro Porro getting hurt, that had to, that was a whole other one that we didn't really address yet. Pedro Porro seemed to be on the pitch for another 8 to 10 minutes than he needed to be, limping around.
But he was trying to walk it off.
He was trying, but he was not succeeding, unfortunately.
Well, we agree.
And he was a liability for all of those
You're
minutes.
not wrong. He kept waving at the sideline. And then also Jed Spence I don't know that Jed Spence was fully warmed up. So
no, I don't think he was.
And so like you're looking at that going, okay, well, you got to give that time. You got to give that guy time to get right. So I don't know, man. It felt like what it always feels like in a Tottenham match, where it's like you got one or two things that should have happened, didn't happen, and then the next thing you fucking know, the thing you didn't want to happen happened. And so it's like you're already ruining the misses, and then the bad thing, like the other goal happens, and you're like, well.
And you can't slump shoulders in this league. You cannot take a second off because guys like Jamie Vardy will make you pay for it, unfortunately.
Well, and also looking at the wider league, we have to take this result in context of the rest of the opening weekend. And, I always had a bad feeling about us playing on Monday to begin with because, we had to watch the other teams that were, vying with for those, top spots in the league basically get their business done. So that was another frustrating aspect of it.
Yeah, that's just a whole nother kick in the pants. The only other, I guess, incident in this match was late in the match. We saw, and the only reason I bring this up is because I saw some people on the World Wide Web, I guess, complaining about it or causing a stir about it. But Vicario really went after Bergvall at one point after what seemed to be a miscommunication. I was wondering how you guys felt about that because he
shouldn't have been fucking up.
Okay. That's I think
I had no
he
problem.
He told him twice. He was like, I told you twice. Like, if you read his lips, he was like, that's the second time. Get your fucking shit together. Like, I can't be mad at the guy. That's what the keeper's supposed to do, Kaz.
Exactly. We want him to be vocal and communicate with his defense or midfield in this case. And he's a young player. He's got to learn from his mistakes. And to me, it didn't look like he took it in a bad way. He was just kind of like, yeah, I screwed up. I need to hear this, It's just that it looks intense because it's Vicario. He's Vicario.
it did indeed look intense. Yeah, it's a point. I don't. Do you guys have anything else to say on the match itself before we move on to talking about some other stuff that happened this week? Because I'm just this one, Caroline. Your point about it being Monday does really suck. It's like I can't even wash the taste out of my mouth by watching United blow a game this weekend, or I can't even laugh at Chelsea because they lost to the champions. We lost to or we drew. I keep saying it. We did not lose this match. We drew this match to a newly promoted side, but it's one of those that does feel like loss when you expect the 3 points. But it's like you can't even get that taste out of your mouth until Saturday when Spurs will, return home to face Everton, which, kind of sucks. But anything else to get off your guys' chest about the match itself?
No.
Not
Thank God
really.
there's 37 more of these.
Yeah, 37 more, exactly.
Exactly. I'm trying to look forward and focus on the positives, which is that we saw some good evidence that the system can work. The players were playing with bravery, and that's really all I can ask for. So I'm happy.
1 point closer to staying up.
Fair enough. I do want to remind everybody before we want to talk about some transfer business to go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/Tottenham Depot, and subscribe. We are doing some extra content on the YouTube page this season, some preview episodes. We are going to have an Everton preview out this week. It'll probably be out either Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. Looking ahead to the match at the weekend against Everton, we did one. Our boy Dakota and our boy Scott jumped on and chatted about and previewed this Leicester match. That is an exclusive YouTube thing. So go to the YouTube page if you want some extra content from the Tottenham Depot. You'll get the podcast in your podcast feed. That can also be viewed on YouTube, but you're also going to get some extra content on the YouTube. So go subscribe, youtube.com/Tottenham Depot. Guys, there was some more. Obviously, the transfer window is still open despite the season having been started, and there was some more transfer business. Let's start with Oliver Skipp because he's already been brought up. Oliver Skipp, kind of a little bit of a surprise, goes to Leicester City for a reported £20 million. And the only reason Todd's shaking his head no, for those of you not watching, like
I called this shit 2 podcasts ago.
You thought he would be gone, and you were right. The only reason I find it a little bit of a surprise is because of the thing that Alistair Gold likes to talk about more than anything else, and that is club train / homegrown numbers. And
I couldn't give a fuck.
I know you couldn't, but this quite literally leaves Spurs with 2 club train players in their team, and that is Brendan Austin and Alfie Whiteman, the 2 backup goalkeepers, which is just so interesting to me. It will mean things for the Europa League squad as it stands, which we can get to, but let's start on the Oliver Skipp of it all because he is one of our own and moves to Leicester. He'll join Harry Winks there, which we got to see Harry Winks in this match today. What's your take, Todd? I don't really think I have grand feelings about Oliver Skipp moving on, but I know others feel a lot more sentimental about this one.
I have appreciation for the journey, and I love that Oliver Skipp gets it. I read a story, I don't remember where it was, but it was basically saying one time when he was injured, he rode the tube into the stadium so that he could just walk up the high road with everyone and enjoy it because he's a fan. He truly gets it. And like, for that alone, I have nothing but respect for the guy. And then you realize that he played 100 matches for his boyhood club. Like, that's the fucking dream. That's the dream. When you're this little teeny tiny kid running around in a mansion kit, right? And then you walk out of the brand new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as a 25 million pound, English midfielder, Premier League proven midfielder, going to a Premier League club where you're going to get significant minutes. Yep. We had a conversation about the Harry Winks and the Scott Parkers and all the Ryan Masons and the Tom Carrolls, right? Like all those guys, like, and shout to them, the Alex Pritchards. Like, we appreciate and respect you and thank you very much for your service. I hope you have a lengthy career not on my payroll.
Caroline, I know you had some feelings about Skippy as well.
I did, just because, we know how much the club means to Skipp, and I've been comforting myself, reflecting on kind of like Todd was saying, like the things that he did achieve with his boyhood club, having his one goal come against Chelsea. Like that's pretty awesome.
And a banger.
Yes, and a beautiful goal, and getting to play all those European games. Like he really has lived the dream. So it's not like I think he's going to have a ton of regrets, after making this transfer. And it, like you, Andrew, I was kind of shocked at the transfer because I didn't think we could actually afford to let him go from the club trained player perspective. But it sounds, from all the reports, like the club is really just trying to do what was best for him in terms of getting him actual game time at another club, doing what's best for his career, and kind of taking the L on the squad building side. So
which I can appreciate too.
He deserves, yes,
Yep.
I think.
The other thing that I want to point out, Kaz, to kind of piggyback on top of that, is that we have taken a dramatically different approach to our academy since Oliver Skip started with it. And so the fact is that we've got a guy named Tyrese Hall that is breathing down everybody's neck, let alone the Archie Grays and the Lucas Bergvalls of it all. I don't know where Oliver Skip fits into this system. And I think Oliver Skip started looking around the training room and figuring out what the midfielders were being asked to do in an AND system. It was like, yo, I got to figure out how to get up north a little bit. Let me call Harry real quick. And Winksy on the phone. There you go.
Yeah, that's true. That's nice. He gets a reunion with Winks, which is cool. But I think in a literal sense, we never really did figure out where his best position was in the midfield, especially cycling through different managers that he's played under. So I just hope that he can get some stability in this move and, kick on. We miss you, Skip.
Yeah, I think there was no question that Skip was not going to be ripe for this system under Ange, and I think that is the most pragmatic thing. What we're talking about with the Europa League squad, for those who don't know, there are club trained / homegrown rules, and I think the basic gist of it, without trying to get too complicated, is that if you want a full 25-man Europa League squad, you've got to have 4 club trained players in that squad. And as of now, Spurs, before the Skip move, only had 3, so they were going to have to name a 24-man squad. But now that Skip is gone, as I mentioned earlier, it's just Austin and Whiteman that are club-trained players. So it's a 23-man squad is the max that they can name. You can only have up to 17 non-homegrown players. So there's just a lot of finagling that Spurs will have to do if they want to bring anyone else in, which, again, we're going to talk about in a second because they did bring someone else in. But there's just a lot going on in terms of fitting the players that they will want into that squad. But I don't think it's anything that the club doesn't know. It's just this is a move that they felt they were ready to make. So obviously they're prepared for it. It's not like they didn't know that they were going to be playing Europa League football this season and are just figuring it out. It's just that's the only reason it was a little bit of a curious move to me, is because I think we all kind of assumed that Skip was going to be kept around not only for depth but just for the purposes of he is club trained, and that helps a little bit with the Europa League squad. In terms of other kind of rumors and reports and outgoings this week, Jamie Donnelly goes out on loan. That is one that we kind of knew was going to happen. He moved
and started.
Yeah, and Leighton Orient. Alfie Devine and Ashley Phillips are also expected to get loans, as is Manar Solomon, which is an interesting one. I don't know that I think Spurs would probably prefer to sell him permanently, but I think it's going to look like a loan when all is said and done. And then Sergio Reguilon and Giovanni Lo Celso have been working on permanent moves out of the club. That is the latest kind of from the Spurs roundup in terms of outgoings. When it comes to incomings, there is a new signing to talk about, and that is the 19-year-old Wilson Odobert from Burnley. They signed him winger for 25 million plus another 5 million pounds in add-ons and a 10% sell-on fee to Burnley. This is a player that is exciting, and Spurs have been looking for their quote-unquote dribbly winger all summer, and I'm not 100% sure that they definitely found him, but they might have. It's a possibility for sure. They did make the signing of Odobert before the deadline on Friday, so he was eligible to play in this Leicester match, but did not appear in the squad. He basically hasn't trained with them, obviously just joining on Friday, so not a big surprise, but certainly plausible that we could see him in the squad for the Everton match coming up this weekend. Todd, any underlying thoughts on the new signing?
Yeah, he's the perfect Ange dribbly winger because he can play all four of those front spots if you need him to. Realistically, he can play both of the wings, and he likes to play through the middle, so inverting isn't hard for him at all whatsoever. Like, he is the type of guy that gives you the all of the attributes that you would expect from a dribbly winger, and he has really solid vision, which is not always something you can say for most dribbly wingers. So I think that's why Ange likes him.
Caroline, we saw
Well-
this guy play at Burnley and come on last year. What have we seen from him, and what do we like? I mean, there are a lot of wingers already on this club. Where does he fit in amongst the Brennan Johnson, Kulusevski, Timo Werner, and obviously Heung-min Son of it all?
I think he's just going to provide some variety. And as a side note, I have become so tired of hearing the phrase dribbly winger on every Spurs podcast.
It is getting old, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that phrase, but I'm just like, yeah, I know we need one.
You
Anyway.
can blame Nathan A. Clark for that.
Yes, yeah, it's like the
We all know who we're talking about there. I don't think there's any.
So we might as well just call it out.
I don't listen to their pod, so that really isn't.
But he's not wrong. Like, that's the problem.
Maybe he's
point.
like,
Yes.
but yeah, I
Cliches
think
are annoying because they've been right long enough times for them to be cliche.
yes, exactly. But yeah, I think it's an exciting transfer. Anytime, the players, former club fans are devastated. Which, sorry, Burnley. I mean, we don't want to kick them when they've just been relegated, but they'll be fine. And I think he's going to fit in great with sort of the general, youth cohort coming up at Spurs, and yeah, good things for the future.
That's the point I wanted to make. It's another teenager, literally another child that we've signed. Solanke being 27 is like, man, this guy, I hope he brought his walker with him amongst all these new signings, because he's ancient compared to the rest of them. And obviously we saw both Gray and Bergvall, and there's been so many children signed in this club, and it's a good thing. I'm not against it, but it is a youth movement at this club right now, and it's really cool to see. I earlier this week I was kind of organizing. All right, I was really organizing in terms of thinking about the Europa League squad, and I was putting in some dates of birth in a spreadsheet, realizing that Spurs only currently have one player who's older than me, and I'm 35, and that player is Fraser Forster, who's not.
Don't do that,
not
brother. It's a trap. That
it
game
is
gets real depressing real quick. I promise.
Boy, it is scary, my friend. That's kind of where we're at with that. But I'm excited that, again, the youth factor of it for me is important, because when you sign a 19-year-old, there's probably 5 or 6 more years for that guy to even get better. And that's, I think, under Ange, what we're going to see, not only with Odegaard, but with Bergvall and with, Archie Gray and all these young guys that we've signed.
I just need to pause for a quick second. Yes, he was a little jackrabbity at times. But how fucking good is Bergvall? Like, I was astonished.
But so for someone who completely has admitted on the podcast that he barely watched any of preseason, I watched a little bit of the last match against Bayern. That was really my first time getting to see him in true game action, and I was fanning myself because he is something. And honestly, we've all been talking about, and I know Dakota, for example, really thinks that Bergvall is eventually going to take over for James Maddison. But could you imagine a midfield where they're both involved? I mean,
well, he came on for Sarr.
Right. And the reason I bring it up in the context of Maddison is because, and I don't know if this is just being back at the King Power Stadium and wanting to put on a show, but Maddison was damn good in this match against Leicester today. Like,
he was about an hour, and then the wheels fell off.
Well, and I wouldn't really entirely put that on him either. I think it was the team around him as well was starting to lose its grip on the match. I thought he pulled a lot.
He just looked awful leggy. I'm just saying.
And I think
he caught a knock. And that's the thing about Matters, is that it's like tons of quality, but Kaz, how long what does Andrew always say about available something? I don't know, availability. Anyway,
It's a good
I'm
point,
worried.
though. It's not just availability to play the game; it's how long can you play the game. So,
Yeah, but I was just dreaming on, boy, wouldn't, like, what if you could stick, whether it's Bentancur or Gray or, yeah, we haven't even really addressed the Basuma thing, which we should probably mention. We talked about it briefly last week, but boy, that's a whole nother can of worms.
He's in
But
timeout.
if you could get a six back there who can really be a defensive stalwart and have Madison and Bergvall just go to town and have fullbacks going to town and have, like, that is a full-on attack mode type of team. I don't know if we'll ever see it because it sounds a little too attacking, but boy, does it get it gets me a little hot under my collar just thinking about it, because Bergvall, boy, did he look saucy. He looked really, really fun in this one.
Andrew's got the vapors over here, y'all. I'm telling you, I am saying that a Locatelli into this little mix at the 6 it changes a lot of things. We know a line, someone who can break the lines with passing in the way that, to be honest, both Van Ven and Romero did today, like exceptionally well. And did you see them flip? The rotation that we saw out of the back five looked like they've been playing together for, I don't know, a handful of seasons at least. But that 6 role, you can't count that the guy that we haven't talked about, and I'm not going to mention his name because he's in timeout.
Let's address it right now. Let's address it right now, because we did bring it up last week on the podcast on our preview episode, after the incident with the the social media video that Basuma posted. Ange comes out and is very stern, and basically this was I think a little bit of a gauntlet thrown down by Ange. I don't think this was him being soft on this issue at all. I think this is him being very stern and very forward and very direct. He was suspended for this match, and who knows what that's going to mean for the next match. It might just be a 1-match suspension. Maybe he works his way back in, but I think more so than just the act of suspending him for a match, I think there's a lot of trust that needs to be gained here on the part of Yves Bissouma.
Well, and looking ahead, a little bit to the next match, I think we can safely assume Bentancur will not be playing, since he went out with a concussion sub. So to me, we start Gray, because I was very impressed by him. I felt like he understood, what the role was. He's willing to take those risks that I think Ange wants his players to take. And I don't always see that from Basuma, which I think is like the reason I've never really been a staunch supporter of him. I think he has a tendency to kind of get withdrawn within a game. But I didn't see that from Gray. Obviously, small sample size. So there's still time for him to disappoint me, I guess. But I think I would take the gamble of the young, unproven talent at this point.
I actually like the shout, Andrew, of starting Gray with Sarr and Madison, as opposed to having Gray come on with Bergvall. I think you get less of the aforementioned clusterfuck with that. I think that when Basuma is on the pitch, he is the undoubted stopper, right? It doesn't matter who he's playing with. That's the guy that, like, it all runs through him. And so you're able to see from the defense to the offense, it's going to go through Basuma. That's just the way that he operates. Recognizing that Bergvall doesn't have to worry about doing so much extra, and he can just focus on where he's headed, along with either Madison or whomever they actually bring in the other side of that. I think it gives a different dynamic to our offense that we haven't had before. It's just pretty awesome.
I think part of the reason that we saw such a clusterfuck, as you describe it, is also because they had totally switched the formation. They were playing that 4-1-4-1 instead of their normal formation, and that did cause a little bit of confusion in terms of the setup. But I agree with you. I will, however, be interested to see, because Bentancur was not the only player that came off in this game with an injury, if Pedro Porro was able to return for Saturday's match. Obviously a shorter week, playing Monday and then Saturday, and Porro obviously had to come off with some kind of lower body, looked like an ankle or heel of some kind injury. So do you see Jed Spence step in for him? Do you see Pedro Porro come back, or do you potentially see Archie Gray go out there and try to play it at the right back spot? I would prefer to keep Gray. I agree with you guys in the 6 role because I think that's where he is best suited long term. But it will be something to look out for as we kind of barrel into the next match, because these are the schedule does not rest. Obviously,
Thick and fast.
Season having gotten underway here today. Before we get out of here, there's some Spurs women business to talk about. There's actually quite a bit of Spurs women business to talk about. There's transfer moves. There was a behind closed doors preseason friendly victory, mind you. I did want to shout out, there was a piece, a really cool feature written on Robert Villaham in the Mirror, which Villaham actually posted on his own social media account on Twitter. So you can find it there. Really interesting feature, a little bit of a lengthy piece on him, but if you haven't gotten a chance to read that, I would go seek that out. It is a worthwhile read for sure. Caroline, there was a preseason friendly, a 6-1 victory over London City Lionesses. We didn't get to see anything. This was not on Spurs Play. This was not, not put out anywhere, but was at least, written about on the club website, kind of like a match report. Did we learn anything notable from a preseason? Like, I'm going to be the same way I was with the men. It's preseason. It can't matter that much, but is there any takeaway that we can have from this match?
Yeah, I really wish that they were streaming these games, and it's killing me that they're not. But we have 2 players who made their, first appearances with the club. So that would be obviously Ella Morris and Araya Dennis, I think is actually how she pronounces it. So they got their first minutes. That's great. We also had a brace from Lena Gunning-Williams, who was out on loan last season with Ipswich Town. So it's, she's kind of the up and coming striker that we're all really excited about. So to see her getting some goals in preseason is great. And also Schwang got her first goal in a Spurs shirt, because I'm a big fan of her. So I'm really hoping she can have her, breakout season with Spurs now that her injury concerns look to be in the rear view, hopefully. But otherwise, it was kind of, business as usual, just players getting much needed, minutes in the legs. And the only weird thing was that apparently Roz played at center back. And I think I speak for everyone that we probably didn't need to see that. So maybe it's good it wasn't streamed.
Yeah, it's definitely a confusing move. There was also transfer business on the Spurs women's side. New signing Claire Hunt has joined the club from PSG, signs through 2027, a defender, Australian international. What do we know about Claire Hunt? I know this is a pretty highly lauded signing for the club.
Yeah, I mean, coming from PSG, so she can't be too much of a joke. I know all the Australian Spurs fans that I talk to are really hyped about her just from her performances with the Matildas. And I think in terms of like our depth chart on the women's side, we really did need to kind of bolster at the center back position, because there were some times last season where we did have weird players, popping up at center back that you don't want to see there. So I don't have a ton of knowledge on her personally. So I can't tell you if she's going to be challenging for a starting spot right away. Because I feel like we'd kind of established that Luana and Molly were, sort of the preferred starters last season when they were fit. So it'll be interesting to see if she's, pushing one of them out or just, providing that depth, like I said.
Made only 13 appearances for PSG, so hopefully this is a place where she can stretch her legs a little bit more. That would be nice. The other big move of the week was an outgoing Barbara Vidakova leaving for Slavia Prague on a permanent move. There was a moment last season where we thought Vodakova was going to be the number 1 keeper on this team. She made 6 WSL appearances and 11 in total, and then all of a sudden that was just out the window, and now she is out the door. Not that much of a surprise after things went the way that they did, but still just an interesting move nonetheless that she's quickly moved on.
Yeah, I think with Barbara, the issue was that she did not have the same sort of distribution ability that Becky Spencer does. And so it didn't feel like she was the best fit for kind of the style we're trying to play under Robert. So I wasn't too surprised necessarily that she left after just one season, but it's definitely a position where we are a little vulnerable now because obviously Becky Spencer is not getting any younger, and Eleanor Heaps, who is sort of come up from the academy and is now at the senior level, she still has not made a senior appearance with Spurs competitively. So I feel like we're going to have to bring in another goalkeeper before the end of the window. It's a tricky market, I feel like, on the women's side with goalkeepers. So it's going to be a tough one for the recruitment team, I think.
And then don't call it the Conti Cup no more. It is the Women's League Cup. Spurs have been drawn into Group E against Charlton Athletic, Aston Villa, and Crystal Palace. So that is on the horizon as well. Season's still a few weeks away from getting going. We didn't actually talk either about the Spurs Women's new training wear partnership with a company called Drip, which is so cool. To just have the word drip on your training wear, like that is quite literally drip in my opinion. But it's a natural mineral water company that was founded in 2023. So interesting that we talked a few weeks ago about the men's training wear and how they're going with betting companies, and they're going with crypto companies on their sleeve, which by the way still look terrible when you watch a match with that big old Kraken logo on the sleeve. But to have drip, literal drip on your training wear, I think is actually kind of nice. Hopefully the company is stable enough to pay the bills that are coming for that. But I don't know. I just thought that was kind of something interesting to know. Todd, would you rock a training wear with drip on it? Like, wouldn't that be kind of cool?
A hell of a lot sooner than I'd rock a training gear with Bet MGM on it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought as well. So guys, that's I think going to do it for this edition. We did not even get to bring up the name Mauricio Pochettino on this podcast, and I think we're going to pocket that for a little while, because that is still news that I just am not really quite able to comprehend, is the fact that Mauricio Pochettino is apparently going to be the United States men's national team head coach, which just blows my mind. But that is, I feel like we have to save that for a day when Scott's able to join us
100%.
too, because Scott is just
And
gonna yeah exactly.
And until I see that guy in like a US M&T quarter zip, like that shit hasn't happened yet.
It is almost like signings. I do want to treat that almost like a signing. It's just a rumor at this point. It's a little weird that it hasn't actually happened yet for as many days as it's been rumored. So
I would have said,
as we record this on a Monday night. So that's going to do it for us here at the Tottenham Depot. Be sure to check out our episodes on the YouTube page. As I mentioned, we will have bonus content on the YouTube page just about every week. So go subscribe, youtube.com/Tottenham Depot. You can also leave us a rating and review on your podcast app of choice, because that really does help spread the word about the show. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and TikTok at Tottenham Depot. You can follow Todd at TC_Show. Follow Caroline at CG Stefko. You can follow me at A Stetka. Until next week, we will talk to you post Everton here on the pod. But again, check out the YouTube for a preview of that match this week. This has been the Tottenham Depot podcast. As always, come on, you Spurs.